All right, so I've titled this slideshow, this training, Choosing to Fight in Times of Eco-Anxiety and Overwhelm. And this is based on kind of a conversation we were having in the mobilizing team, where we were talking about how do we deal with it all being so much all the time, and how do you continue to fight? This is the problem. There is so much bad stuff happening literally all the time. Kind of, this was a way that it spoke to me. Overwhelmed being an anxious kind of being a theme here. Um, Absolutely. Great. Thank you for giving your thoughts on that, and we'll let that keep going. So some of the like sources of this problem. Um, kind of what from what y'all said and some additional thoughts. Um, with the media that we currently have and with social media, which has made these things much more in our face in the last 10 years, we have a 24-hour news cycle. It is an overwhelming amount of information all the time, all at once. And if you get push notifications or if you're scrolling your phone, you will get news, sometimes not even from like news sources, but from people reacting to news. And that can, you have no break from when you're hearing about these things. And it also shows the worst of humanity all at once. You're hearing about all the bad things that are happening. If you hear about a good thing, it's like some small story, somewhere down the line. There's also a focus in the media on people at the very top, obviously at the federal level, the president, our congresspeople, our senators, celebrities, tech billionaires, but it's all these people that are easy to make media about that are extremely far away from all of us. They are essentially unreachable, and they're making decisions in closed rooms very far away from you. And on the flip side, there's very little coverage of the average person or, movement. Um, and also, a lot of these media sources these days have been bought and paid for by corporations. The Washington Post is owned by Jeff Bezos. You've got more and more disinformation, more and more intentional um, overwhelm. And intentional, I liked these four D words, but there's intentional disempowerment, distancing you from sources of power, distracting you with things that really don't matter, or, culture wars, or, aren't these people stupid? Aren't these people ridiculous? And not focusing on the policies and actions that actually matter, and intentional literal disenfranchising. So, taking away your power to vote, to have say in our, society or our politics. Those are all things that are really happening right now. Um, And then on from our systems and how we're currently living right now, there is a very high cost of living and low pay, which means a vast majority of people have to work a lot harder just to survive. Whereas, 30, 40 years ago, they would have been comfortable on the same pay, or, approximate pay. And that leads to little time for life outside of work. And often, being too exhausted outside of work to have the energy to do anything else, except just recover to go to work again. And this leads to people not being able to do hobbies, to not be able to spend time with friends, with family, with community, to go into third spaces and like have some casual conversations with other folks, to spend time outside or in nature, or to do activism, to, take the time to go to a city council meeting or to go to Sacramento or do any of these things. These are all things that take time and energy that if you are intentionally being kept very stressed out and in survival mode, you don't have the time or energy to do that. And these things all add up to burnout. How does this serve those in power? What are they getting out of this? So the very rich, the very powerful, the people at the top that are profiting off of these things. So it is a consolidation of money, resources, and power. There is a feedback loop, which allows them to control more politicians and policies, and, sneak in loopholes and things like that that allow them to blatantly influence policies and politicians that will then lead to further securing of these things. And all of these things are at the expense of the average person. That, it allows them to make more profit off of medication that we then overcharge people for, and they suffer for that. And when we are too tired, too short on time, too distracted to take action against the wrong things that they are doing, those in power doing the wrong things get to continue with their activities unobstructed. Nobody is holding them to task, so they get to just do whatever they want. Good news, though. It is so exhausting to pay attention to current events because you care. When you're feeling sad, mad, terrified by all these things in the news, this means that you are still feeling and you are empathizing in a major way, and you've not yet normalized these events. I don't know about you guys, but I hear about people frequently who are like, oh, I don't, why should I care about this? It affects people that, it doesn't affect me. It affects some people that I don't know. Um, and that is, if you are not feeling that way, then you have a higher level of empathy than those people. Congratulations. So, unfortunately, the flip side of that, the downside of that is that when you feel these intense negative emotions constantly, it can quickly lead to a point of where it is just too much. This is when burnout and apathy happens. Okay. Um, then you get these thoughts, or you might have heard people say stuff like, the world is falling apart. Why should I even care? Why should I try? None of this matters because this insert terrible thing that might come to pass, and it'll make it all not matter. Nobody's listening to us anyway, so why should we bother? Um, Maybe people like can raise their hands or put in the chat if they've heard these things before, because I feel like I've been getting them from different people across different sides of things, but yeah, seeing a couple hands. All right. But I work with so many amazing people, but it's a big fight. It's a very gigantic fight with a lot of issues that are recursive, feedback loops. There's all of these things that need to happen. And while it sounds a little bit counterintuitive, this is the idea that kind of helps me. Um, so there's this, kind of idea that you might have when you hear this 1.5 degrees warming, that we have to keep it under. That's like the UN amount that we've been talking about. It's what the Paris Climate Accords were about. And there's this idea that if we don't solve the climate crisis and keep warming under 1.5 degrees Celsius, then nothing else we do matters. And um, and I'm going to reject that idea. So instead, I'm thinking about it as every action we take, every step that we make, and I'm trying not to think about the song, and how we operate in the time being matters. Everything we do along the way, regardless of if we eventually get to this final, we make it or we don't or whatever, like everything along the way matters. So in the case of global warming, we're talking about this 1.5 degree difference. And but if we do exceed that 1.5 degrees Celsius difference, which I hate to say it, we are on our way to doing because there's been not enough action at a massive level, um, each degree difference and point degree difference matters. So if we are not able to stop it at 1.5, it really matters if we stop it at 2.5. And if we can't stop it at 2.5, it really matters if we stop it at 3.5 because each degree difference is you know, islands that could or could not go under the sea. It's, people that may or may not become climate refugees. It's, how survivable or how livable a summer is, or, these extreme weather events. Um, each degree matters and is the difference of real lives. And if not lives, then the quality of life for people. So there's all these levels of it. And it's not something where if we don't make it to this point, we don't solve it at this point, okay, well, who cares? Because every difference matters. And we are fighting for a better future, no matter what. Um, we are fighting for a better future than we know today. And once we achieve a slightly better future, we have to fight for a better future than that one. And that does not necessarily mean that we have to fight for a perfect world where we solve everything, or rather, we can fight for a perfect world, but every step better improves real circumstances. Every action we take towards that goal improves and saves real lives. It is better to win some battles than none. It's not all or nothing. There's so much gray, there's so much nuance, and all of that nuance, has a real impact. And you do not have to be a perfect beacon of hope all the time. It is not defeatist to say that you are anxious about something or you're not sure about it. And I think it helps me to release this idea of I don't have to tell myself that everything is going to be okay for it to be worth doing. And I can like take a break from that and, kind of be sad or be, kind of listless for a little bit. But it matters to do. And that keeps me coming back kind of, it might be counterintuitive, but that's what works to me. As you all said, action is an antidote for apathy. Finding one project, one issue, one corner of the work that you care about and taking action on it and getting others to do so, all of those things make you feel so much more powerful and important. And in a way that you are, but it's easy to forget when you are passive in things. Even if it's something super small, attending a tree planting, or, calling your representative one time. Each thing adds up and it does have real power for you. Talking to your friends, family, community about these issues, you have the power to influence other people and you have the power to change how we think about these things. A lot of these bigger cultural conversations are due to people not talking about things and not challenging each other to think in a, you know, more abundant way about these issues. Talking to your neighbors, joining a community group, joining a group like ours, something where you're connected to people that you might not know already, or who are different from you, who are different ages, different races, different religions. All of these things remind you that people are good and that people want to help each other. And it's very different from what you see in the news. I like to say how, if you just watch the news, you would think that Oakland is like a total cesspit of crime and murder and whatever. And if you go out and walk in Oakland and talk to people, you will see that that is absolutely not the case. And you really need to build your own reality based on what people um, give you. You are not alone. All of these feelings, powerless, weakness, all of those things are about isolation and keeping you away from the things that keep you in power. Bill McKibben says that The first thing to do, oh, what can I do? I'm just one person. Okay, stop being one person. Join a group, and then you're suddenly not one person, and other people care about these issues too. When you put care, attention, and time into the world and people around you, it comes back to you. Kind of this abundance mindset, putting out lots of generosity and care, and people will return it. Um, if you actively look for the good things in the world, you will find it, and then you will train your brain to look for the good things rather than looking for all the bad things. And that is a very simple shift, but it is very effective. And something I didn't put on here, but I would add, um, I would recommend scrolling past news if you're getting it on your feed, and instead listening to like a news roundup maybe once a day, every other day, something like that. So you're getting it from like all at once and from a reputable source or something, and you're not getting it all the time. And please take breaks. This is a marathon. It is not a sprint. It will still be here when you take a nap, and you need to take care of yourself first. Um, these kind of ideas are built on this idea of just transition, and this is my last frame. But this is from Movement Generation, which is a local group that is pushing for a just better future that not only is clean and green, but also reframes how we look at each other. Um, and so moving away from the extractive economy, as they call it, and moving towards a regenerative economy where we put cooperation, regeneration, democracy, well-being at the center of things, and kind of drawing down where we hold our power. This is a way to be able to frame what is the future that I am fighting for, and having a vision of a society that really makes you excited. And like, what does it look like to be in a community and be in a world where you are excited and happy to participate in it, where you will go about your life and enjoy it and not just get by. And that is something that can keep you in the fight.